Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, December 7th, a day that will live in infamy.
On Monday, the 7th of December, Pearl Harbor Day. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. We have with us George Zaroulas down in Florida, keeping us safe. And we have Jim Peters in the Highlands. We have Fruin Kanbang, candidate Fru.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
From one of our new districts. And happy Monday, Fru. And our producer, John McDonough. So, and we're hoping to have Jenny Enjang zoom in from Hamburg, Germany here in a little bit. And we'll be talking about Ambazonia. For Fru, we had more announcement of candidates in the Little Sun yesterday. Fru, you got a good write-up, didn't you?
Yeah, thank you. I give credit to Alana, the editor who interviewed me. I just thought that it was a wonderful opportunity for me to speak about the wonderful people of Lowell who have treated me like a son.
So what are you running for? School committee or city council?
I am still thinking, making up my mind for city council. I'm still considering. I've not made a final decision. With your support and everything, I can jump in.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to support you.
But you're not
Thank you.
alone, Fru. We got Bob Gignac running for city council in Centerville. We got Jerry Nutter running in Centerville. We have Corey Robinson running in Centerville.
Well, but that is good. I mean, it's good that the people of Lowell start stepping up. It's one thing complaining and one thing also showing up for duty.
Dave Willett from your neighborhood. I think he's going to run.
Dave is going to run, he says.
Oh, David is a good friend, a long-time
So
friend.
it looks like our guest is, can you hear us, Jenny? Can you speak?
Of course, yes.
Oh, good. Thank you. And how are things in Hamburg? Has it snowed yet in Germany?
Thank you. Good morning, sir. In Hamburg, we are having a kind of spring weather. I think the climate change is affecting us. It's almost like summer.
The four worst bases for weather were in Germany, but we were down a little further south than you. So welcome to Jenny Ejang. Is that how you'd pronounce it, Jenny?
Exactly.
And she's here representing the women of Ambazonia. So what does SCEW stand for?
I didn't get that question. I'm sorry. Please say it again.
What does the initials SCEW stand for?
Oh, it is Southern Cameroon's European Women Association. It is an association of Southern Cameroon European women who are living in Europe that have come together as a result of the crisis in our homeland.
So you're spread out pretty far. What your headquarters for your organization is down in Dusseldorf. That's a ways away. Are there people elsewhere also?
Yes, we are all over Europe. We decided to register the association in Germany because there are many women living in Germany who belong to this association. But we are all over Europe. There are people from France, Norway, Sweden, everywhere around Europe. That's why it is titled European Women.
So how do you feel in Germany? You feel welcomed in Germany?
Of course, I feel very welcome in Germany. I'm really integrated in the system. I can speak the language with a little bit accent. And yeah, I feel really fine where I am. My husband is also a German, so I'm really in the system.
Okay then. So Ambazonia, how do you see the effects of the armed conflict on the population in Ambazonia? Are you in touch with that?
Of course, we are very much involved emotionally, mentally. I mean, our whole life has practically changed since the the crisis began in 2016. I mean, everybody who comes from southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, has a link or has been impacted negatively by the war. So that's why we came up with this idea to register a women's association, because in Europe, when an association is registered, there is more possibility to have heard from state authorities than just being in our own little corner and trying to do things. So now, because of the impact we have been going through, this emotional stress we've been going through, we finally decided to build up, to raise up, to create an association where we can then operate.
And I see you guys have a website, SCEW-TAKS, so we can always go to the web page and see what you're doing. I think the internet needs to be used more by people from southern Cameroon. But what are women doing to lessen the plight of the war-affected people? What are you doing?
Oh, yeah. We've been doing quite a lot. It is just, where should I begin? But let me say the women have been much involved in humanitarian activities. If you have an idea of what is happening, we have over 100,000 southern Cameroon Ambazonians who are taking refuge in neighboring Nigeria. We have over 1 million internal displaced persons, and there are so many southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians who have been incarcerated and put in prisons. There are wounded persons, and all of these persons, they need help. And just the information, a survey that was conducted by the United Nations Office for Coordination and Humanitarian Affairs, this year, Cameroon ranked the first nation in the world, in the entire world, that has been neglected. That means we have a lot of work to do because we don't have the support, and that's why we appreciate so much that the local community is bringing us on this platform to give us that possibility to make our voices heard. We have a lot of war-affected persons that need us, women, and we've been doing our best, but that is just like putting a drop of water in a desert. We need more support.
Okay, so what challenges are faced in tackling this humanitarian crisis? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, of course, we are facing a lot of challenges, and the challenges begin from the fact that the workload is just so overwhelming. There are a lot of affected people. It is just like deciding who to save, who to rescue first. So we need a lot of hands to come in and help support us do this work, to cater for these people who are in deep need of support. Another aspect is the finance. We have been doing this all out of our own pockets. As said, the United Nations Commission for refugees, they are even overwhelmed, and they are very happy when we as NGOs we step in to help these people. So there is quite much to do, So that is why we are here and asking the world, please don't neglect us. We have a lot of people who are in deep need, who are are really suffering, and they need the world to step in and support us to take care of these people.
What is the population of Ambazonia, the good half?
The good half of Cameroon, the English-speaking population, which is known as Southern Cameroon or Ambazonian, an estimated 8 million people.
8 million. That's
Yeah.
bigger than Massachusetts.
Okay.
So, and also Southern Cameroon is bigger than, if you can know about 30 something countries in the world in terms of land size and population.
Now, Jenny used a term that not everybody in our audience is familiar with, I suspect, NGO. The non-governmental organization. Can you talk to what an NGO is for just a second?
Yeah, and NGO, as you just rightly stated, is the non-governmental association. Like Southern Cameroon European Women, which we am representing here, we are an NGO, a human rights and a humanitarian NGO. That is why, as I said earlier before, we needed to create this NGO so that we can have support from other international organizations. So it took us quite a while to come to this stage. It was stage by stage. At the first, we were being overwhelmed with what is happening at home. But now we are kind of sorting out ourselves and trying to raise this kind of setting where we can operate at an international level, where we can write for grants, where we can meet people all over the world and speak as an NGO. And from what we have experienced at this level, we have got a lot of people who are appreciating what we are doing. Because now we can connect with the UNHCR for example, in Nigeria to implement projects to help the refugees. But before, it was like each person is just struggling to do something on its own. But now we have come together as a group that galvanizes our energy and makes us stronger to have a much greater impact in what we are doing.
Good.
So, what do you think the international community can do, and what should it be doing? Like the High Commissioner for Refugees, is that the main organization? And what should be done?
There are many things that should be done. The first thing is advocacy. The people who are working with the United Nations High Commission, they have to tell the world that there is a humanitarian crisis in Ambazonia, that they are not capable to stem, to carry out the expected workload that is assigned to them. And if this is known to the world, many other people of goodwill will come in and also give a helping hand. So this is what is expected from the United Nations and also from people of goodwill to support now NGOs like us who are now stepping in with good, with a good setup, with a good structure to give these people a helping hand. So it is about advocacy, telling the world exactly what is happening, about the plight, about the workload, about the people who are in need of help, and also trying to get help from other organizations that can come in or send in funds to support the humanitarian activities that is being carried out.
So, Jenny, what's the goal of the educational system in Ambazonia? What do they want to have happen in Ambazonia with the kids within the structure of the system?
Anybody at this moment, we are so overwhelmed with the bloodshed. We are sick and tired of this war. We are very frustrated that the government of Cameroon is not addressing the root cause and is not trying to look for long-lasting solutions. So anybody at this point, whether it's a young person, it's an old person, or whoever, the first person is the one thing that many people want is peace, freedom, and the right to self-determination. We want this war to stop. We want the people to come on the table and negotiate for peace. Any other thing is secondary. We have lost a lot of soul. The education will come when there is peace. Many other things will come when we have regained our country. when we can live in peace, where people can go out without being harassed. Thank you.
Jim, if I could add on that, as long as the war is being prolonged, the government in Cameroon is benefiting because their intentions has always been to marginalize the southern Cameroon, destroy our identity, and render us illiterate so that they can completely assimilate us and make us non-existent. Because the current president, he also affirmed that internationally at a conference in France, and saying that for all these years, he has been there since 1960, that the function of the French Cameroon, as they call us 2 cubes of sugar, was to dissolve the 2 cubes of sugar and assimilate us. But in last year, at that international conference in France, he said, in fact, they failed to do that, and that was a big mistake on their part. So internationally, you would see that they will push this war so that they can destroy the educational system in English Cameroon, which for 4 years, you all know that they have not been, schools have not been open, but across the Mongo, on the other side of the French Cameroon, everything is perfect. So their intention is to destroy the infrastructure in southern Cameroon so that they render us very, very ineffective. And their greatest threat has been the Cameroonians who are out in the diaspora. Because I remember growing up, my parents always told me that, son, don't say anything now. I mean, it is easier to crush the serpent in the egg and say, go to school. Go to school, and Southern Cameroonians went to school. And it is that adherence to that advice that you see that we are rising up now out of this oppression that has been going on for 50 years, more than 50 years.
Yeah, thanks for that. It was very exact, very good.
Okay, George, you had a question.
Only for Jenny. What do you feel is the root cause of the problem?
The root cause of the problem, for us, the affected people, we say it is suppressing the identity of people who have been existing. Looking at it from a political aspect, it has colonial background. We had 2 European countries that colonized us. That was France, the east part of Cameroon, and the Ambazonian was being colonized. Let me see, the trust was given as trusteeship in the hands of the United Kingdom. So after, when the United Nations in 1945 sat down and said this thing about colonization has to stop, they had to give us back, they had to let African countries to come back to have their independence. The mistake that was done was that after Southern Cameroon has been existing as an autonomous country for almost 10 years, 7 years exactly, they had to conduct a plebiscite in which the 2 countries, Southern Cameroon and French Cameroon, came together as one country under the premises that these nations that has become one would have to create a federalist system, just like the system in the United States. Each country having its own autonomy, but along the line, the dominant part of the country, which is the French part of the country, started assimilating the English part of the country, destroying their identity, destroying their educational system, their law system, their traditional system, their heritage. And every time the people of Southern Cameroon tried to raise their voices to say stop, we are being oppressed, they get killed or arrested. And all along the line, these grievances have accumulated. And now we have come into a phase in life, in a generation where the generation says, no, we can't take it anymore. That is a short summary of where we are today. Perhaps the comrade can add something to that. Over.
You're very right. You're very right, my sister. And thank you for that very eloquent description. And also, we should know that the United States, amongst other countries, amongst 64 other countries, vote voted to grant Southern Cameroon independence. And as we said, French Cameroon was a trusteeship of to the United Nations, administered by, French and English Cameroon were trusteeships of the United Nations, administered by French and England. So in 1960, the United Nations granted independence to the colonies, and also a French Cameroon as a trusteeship of the French, under the French, got its independence in 1960, 1st of January 1960. Their first president was Amadou Ahidjo. The prime minister was Paul Biya, who since 1960 is still the president today. Prior to that time, English Cameroon was the first democratic country in Africa that had conducted 3 elections. And before up to 1960, we had the first prime minister, who was Dr. Endele, second prime minister, who was Dr. John Gufoncha, and the third coming prime minister, which was Honorable Joa. So we were the first country in Africa to be very matured in terms of democracy, compared to the French Cameroon, which till today, they still have one person. So if you look, in 1960, the UN granted independence to all its trusteeship. So we, the Southern Cameroon, owe our independence, which was already given by the UN, even though we were a trusteeship under the British, because we were never a colony of Britain. People should know that Nigeria was a colony of Britain. We were a trusteeship, because what do we understand about trusteeship? When Germany was defeated in World War I at the Treaty of Versailles in 1920, Germany lost its colonies, and they were a trusteeship under the League of Nations. But in 1946, the League of Nations ceased to exist and was succeeded by the United Nations. So German colonies, amongst which you have Togo, Tanganyika, Burundi, Zambia, and the Cameroons, were placed under the trusteeship of the UN, administered by other countries. In the situation of Cameroon, you had French and the French and the British. So in 1960, French Cameroon got its independence. We were supposed to get our independence in 1961, 1st of October 1961. But instead of doing that, Britain left, and then the French Cameroon, with the help of the French forces, they moved in with their forces and with their population and conducted a fake plebiscite, which was now the beginning of an invasion of an independent state, the first democratic state in Africa. So right now, French Cameroon do not even understand what democracy is. So we are the one who are introducing them democracy, because they have never tested democracy, because they have the same president with the one-party system since 1960. Thank you.
Well, democracy is very difficult to install because it's a relatively difficult idea.
It's a difficult idea to the French Cameroon, yes.
Yes, and I'm always impressed with countries that attempt to install their own colonial system, as opposed to countries like countries like Israel that installed a parliamentary system.
Okay, Fru, and then I have a question for Jenny.
Thank you, Cliff, and thank you, Jenny, for coming on the show. It's an honor for us, and particularly for me. You are the first Ambazonian female voice to come on this show. And all along, the men have taken front stage of this struggle. As a mother and an Ambazonian advocate in the diaspora, you speak for the voice of the weeping, mourning mothers who have buried their own children, which is very sad in our culture, and even in all culture, that parents are supposed to bury their children. What can you tell the world and the panel, the role of the women in our struggle?
Yeah, thank
Jenny?
you. Yeah, I'm there. It is Yeah, I'm just a little bit emotional from what you said, that the women are burying their children, and this is has become a normalcy in a country we grew up, and now we see blood everywhere. As mothers, we are really negatively affected. I can say we are traumatized. The activism came in because we as women, we cannot be silent at the face of injustice. We have to make our voices be heard. We have to fight. It is our obligation. It is a moral obligation and a responsibility as women to fight for justice, to fight for peace to be restored in our homeland. As I earlier said at the beginning of this show, that the UN had conducted a survey, and the crisis was ranked the second most neglected crisis in the entire world. That is really frustrating for us who are feeling the impact of the war. It is so disheartening that so many lives are being lost. There is a lot of injustice going on. Countries who have the power just to say one word and the war stops instantly. They are sitting there and watching in silence. France, Britain, who are involved, they are the root causes of this crisis. They are sitting in the United Nations Security Council. They just need to say, look, let us say stop. This war should stop. They are not saying that. This is really disheartening. The American government is sitting in the United Nations Security Council. We are pleading for the United States, who have also gone through a similar war, to make their voices strong by asking the United Nations Security Council to send fact-finding mission to southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, to investigate the war crime committed against the people of Ambazonia. We are pleading to the United Nations as a very strong country to stand for injustice, to fight against injustice and stand with the oppressed people. You did that once with the apartheid in South Africa. Please come to our rescue and help us out of this situation. We need you. And I want to thank the people of Lower. We hold you in high esteem. The global media has been silent about the crisis in southern Cameroon. But you, the people in Lower, you stand with the people in southern Cameroon, Ambazonia. That is why you are giving us this platform for the world, for us to use this platform to tell the world about the plight, about the atrocities committed in southern Cameroon and Ambazonia. We want to say thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny. And I'm hoping, Jenny, that you'll come back and talk to us again in a little bit, help us to understand more about Cameroon, but also more about how does Germany play in this game. Since 100 years ago and a little bit, this was German Cameroon and not English-speaking Cameroon. There's more for us to learn, and so I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
So that was Jenny from calling in from Hamburg, Germany, a delightful city. Next week, Fru has a Fräulein from Germany who is going to talk to us about Ambazonia. Is that right, Fru?
Yes.
Okay. Where is she located in Germany? Do you know?
I think in Hamburg.
Okay, up there in the north, in the fort. I've been to Hamburg. So, is there anything hot happening in Ambazonia? Or?
Well, there's a lot happening. As you know, today is the 30th. That is the 4th anniversary of the president of French Cameroon declaring war on the peaceful people of Ambazonia. And it is very, very sad that after 4 years, the international community have not really taken that seriously. Just a few weeks ago, there was a similar crisis that occurred in Ethiopia, but it is on the front lines of every news, and you wonder the amount of people that have been killed in the southern Cameroon for these 4 years, whether that life is not as important as what is going on in Ethiopia between the Tigrayan groups and the Ethiopian government. So that is something that we really have to see the injustice of the injustice or the conspiracies of the international community with regards to life in one part of the world and even in the same continent that they do not want to cover, as opposed to life elsewhere, which just goes to say that the international communities with the great powers are more interested in protecting their interests wherever they are at the expense of human blood.
In the back of my mind, I have reasons why Ethiopia is probably prominent in Ambazonia, but you're right. We're focusing on one area and not on another. Haile Selassie, the Lion of Judea, was a prominent international figure.
Right.
Whereas Cameroon, everyone's been sort of low profile.
Also that Ethiopia is the only African country that was never colonized by the West. They beat the Italians.
They did. They had help too, but you're right. They beat the Italians. Mussolini thought there'd be a pushover, but they weren't.
That's pointed out. The other thing that I wanted to ask Flo about was there a French statue that was torn down in Cameroon?
Yeah, most of them now, because if you go anywhere in some places in Africa and in Cameroon in particular, the colonial masters, they came and even though they would say that they discovered this country, you really see that these are people whose civilization was very, very far advanced before the European countries came. Because if they had not that, they were not that advanced, they would not see someone who did not look like them and welcome them and gave them a place to sit. But indirectly, they massacred them, they butchered them and said that they brought civilization. Their own civilization is really what that is causing the whole world a lot of pain. And people do not really look at it from that perspective, that these people were far advanced in terms of human relationship to have welcomed these strangers who did not even look like them and provided a place to settle, but they came, instead of reciprocating that generosity, they instead invaded them and destroyed them and said they conquered them. Yes, some of those names now are being changed. The names that were given, there are some cities in Cameroon that used to be called Victoria, but they changed it to what the name used to be.
I got a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Is it true that there was a massive kidnapping of nuns?
Not quite, George, but kidnapping, yes. But the truth of the matter is, you should understand that who stands to lose? Is it the government that is losing international interest for its atrocities, or the people who are fighting for liberation? And if you would think critically, you see that what is happening up in the north, Cameroon French army, that is doing all those tactics in the north, and the same thing is being carried down south. Any atrocities that are happening down south that are equally happening up north, you should know who is behind those atrocities.
So the Northwest is basically Amazonian.
No, you are very right, George, but it was the British Southern Cameroon. That because when the French Cameroon, when they joined with the French Cameroon typically, in an aspect of divide and rule, they did not want to leave that part of Cameroon intact. They divided it into two, the northwest and the southern and the southwest, so as to put them against each other, so that they can better control. All the governors have been appointed by the French Cameroon.
But isn't it fair to say that part of the problem up north is from Boko Haram and its efforts to spread Islam and suppress Christianity?
Well, that may be something to say, but you need these local dictators. They know how to play the international community. Most of the arms that were sent to them to say they are fighting Boko Haram, they are using those arms to come down south and kill the Ambazonians. And I think the international community and America noticed that and withdrew that support. So they will always use their domestic problems to stage up something so that they can get sympathy from the international community and come up with the title Boko Haram. Boko Haram, it's something that it is benefiting these dictators. You watch on the TV whereby the army massacred in live on a woman carrying a baby and 3 children and shot them. When those images went out, they denied it that it was Boko Haram until satellite pictures proved the spot, and the government finally accepted and said that they arrested those murderers. So that is what is going on there.
Okay.